My name is Drew Thawley. I'm on the Duxbury Recreation Collaborative. I'm going to be carrying the heavy weight tonight and walking through this PowerPoint to provide you an update. I have with me Giorgio Bantos. He's the president of Duxbury Soccer. He's off to the side here in case we've got some questions that he can help me field. But I will be the one kind of stepping through here. Now, you should be able to ask questions in the Q&A function, which is on your screen there. But I'm told that it's a little bit quiet still, so I'm doing my best to speak loudly. So offer some questions in Q&A, and if that's for some reason not working for you, I would encourage you to drop your questions in an email to contacts@duxburydrc.org. That's contact at duxburydrc.org if for some reason your Q&A isn't working quite right. The Duxbury Recreation Collaborative is a group of folks. We're all presidents or close past presidents of our youth sports programs. And we've been working together for quite some time. Many of you were on a call about a year ago where we just started to pull the curtain back on this. And we're working in collaboration to drive Duxbury forward with our current field situation. The agenda for tonight, pretty straightforward. I'm going to tell you who we are. I'm going to tell you what we're up to or what we're up against in terms of current status. And I'm going to kind of paint the picture of what the future might look like for you. And then we're just going to flip to kind of what everybody here can do to be helpful to us. And then we'll get into some Q&A. The mission of the Duxbury Recreation Collaborative is, I won't read this whole thing, but essentially we're committed to providing safe, inclusive, and competitive recreational spaces for our youth. And not just for our youth, but also spaces that can be used by people of all ages in towns, families, seniors, etc. The current situation is rather dire. If you are familiar with our current field conditions and court conditions, they're not good. And really no amount of care is going to compensate for that. We are overusing our fields because our youth sports programs are so popular, and we see no end in sight to that popularity. There's also a lack of access in terms of ADA compliance and so forth, and there's a lack of safety mechanisms in our and safety tools in and around our current fields and courts. These are the people that are current directors for the Duxbury Recreation Collaborative. Every single youth sport is represented here, minus hockey, and we expect hockey to come around soon. They've got a stake in this as well. So we look forward to welcoming them, but you can see probably some familiar names on here relative to your kids, whatever sport they are in or were in. Uniting Duxbury, we believe that when we collaboratively tackle this opportunity and these challenges, that we're going to unite Duxbury in the process. And we're going to do so by solving some pretty major problems that plague us today. These are just a few pictures of conditions that all of you have seen and that are pervasive, whether you're talking about the DRC field in front of Steel, or Lincoln, where a lot of soccer is played, or Keene, where a lot of lacrosse is played, or our pickleball courts, which is growing in popularity significantly. They are significantly overused. We have worked at length with the town field maintenance departments, and we have invested significant amount of money with them. And unfortunately, there's really nothing that can be done at this point other than a change in surface and adding fields. We have completely inadequate number today of fields. We knew this anecdotally, but we hired a firm to help us prove it with data and with a third-party perspective. So we hired a firm called Activitas to help us look at our situation here in Duxbury. They've done a lot of these types of programs and projects around the state and the area. These are just a few. Very recently, town of Scituate, but a lot of you are familiar with what has been done in Weymouth as well, with both Lovell and Libby and Legion, Colby College, Dartmouth, etc. So these guys have a lot of experience. One of the things that they did for us is they assessed our current usage across town. And unfortunately, it totally confirmed our suspicion in that our fields are seriously in dire need of help. You can see here on the right side of the screen, DCF and Brooks in their current natural turf condition are being used at 450 and 396% of their usefulness today. Train is even worse at 531%. And then the middle part of Train there at 342%, but it doesn't end there. Coppins is in dire need. Chandler is not in good shape. Lincoln is seriously overused. Train baseball is seriously overused, as is Onion Field. So we have, and even if you look on the very right where it says maintenance level 6, what that means is out on a 1 to 6 scale, 6 being Fenway ballpark level care. Even if we had that level of care, we would only be at those levels of usage. So you really cannot out maintenance many of these locations. There's no way to do it with the current situation. Continuing and uniting Duxbury, we have a challenge with field scheduling. A lot of you who have been a part of the youth programs have suffered from this, whether it be to last minute cancellations because the high school prioritizes ahead of youth, or for other reasons, field conditions have actually canceled games. We've had referees and officials show up on game day and call the games off because they can't play on Duxbury fields. They're that bad. The scheduling itself is a challenge because we just don't have that many fields to spread around. And so we are proposing that the high school and all youth sports get on one central scheduling app. Many towns in the state of Massachusetts and New England use these apps. And so we look forward to unifying everybody onto one common scheduling application. But there's a lot more than that. So I ask you to envision a future where we have recreational and sports fields that we're proud of. We have spaces around those fields where people can walk and jog, cycle, walk a baby in a stroller, use a walker on level paved ground, and where really people can rally and be physically active, enjoy where they are. Maybe, and if you can even imagine this today, it's hard to go to one location and have your child play multiple sports, or have multiple children play multiple sports in the same venue without having to move your car and not having to go anywhere to use the restroom. These seem like simple pleasures in life, but when you have multiple children and you're screaming across town from one place to another, you understand the difference it can make to have those conveniences. We imagine a future that makes our Duxbury residents proud, that are safe for players. There aren't ankle breaking holes in the turf, and for spectators, where they can be sufficiently located or appropriately located around fields and playing surfaces without being in danger. Enough space to handle current and future needs for our programs, accessible to all, used by a spectrum of all ages, and importantly, financially self-sustaining. We know that these fields require a lot of investment of money and time, and we have built a business plan to put ourselves in a position to be able to sustain and maintain these fields over the long term with sufficient annual investment in those new surfaces. Imagine this, as I said, a senior walking along a path, being able to play hockey outside, being able to have a lined turf area that we're proud of, being able to have a picnic table, being able to have a walk through the woods adjacent to the playing surfaces where your children are playing, that connect to many of Duxbury's best backcountry trails today. I'm going to show you a few slides now to try to show you our vision for this. We've been working quite a bit as the collaborative to find and with the town to find the right space. We've been directed to invest a lot of our energy into the Chandler and behind Chandler, and so this here represents significant investment in new playing surfaces. One thing I would note that the work that Activitas did suggested that we would need 14 new natural turf playing surfaces to satisfy today's need in our youth program. 14 new spaces. That's a lot of land. That's a lot of trees that need to be removed and a lot of grading that needs to happen. When we use synthetic turf, the dynamics change a lot. And so what you see here are the only two new additional spaces proposed in our plan, and that is to put a large two field surface area right behind Chandler, as you see, and then one in the backwoods behind the current baseball diamond. It also includes turfing Coppins Field and enlarging and reshaping Coppins Field a little bit so that we can get full games in that location that we cannot attain today. That requires the relocation of some access points. As you can see, that's not today's road access into the circle behind Chandler or next to Chandler. But this space is all currently town owned and is viable for this type of a project. Walking paths around, walking path that leads off to the upper right that connects to the bog walking trails that exist today in town already. This is Keene. If we reimagine Keene, we add important parking space, which is only going to become more important. We all know there's been homes built along Keene Street right here, and parking is a disaster on any kind of a big game or practice day. This works to mitigate those issues, and it provides the ball and bat sports of softball and baseball significant space to focus their sport. DCF and Brooks. A lot of people don't know that this big field in the middle here is called DCF. It's Duxbury Community Field. And the one next to it to the right is called Brooks Field. Today they're grass. The statistics I just showed you said that these are two of the four most egregiously overused fields in town. And it's the center point of our town. It is the first thing that somebody sees. They see it before they see our new turf for the football field, in fact. So we would endeavor to turf these two fields, and also to reconstitute the softball field, the upper softball field above those tennis courts, which, if anybody's noticed, those tennis courts have been completely removed, and those are being replaced right now. This is Train. So this is currently where there is a baseball diamond and a small softball diamond as well. This would put in place a full-size high school level baseball diamond with lighting and a fence, and it would provide one resurfaced, regraded, reseeded full soccer field right there in front of the pool itself. And then lastly, for visualization purposes, this is Tarkiln. If you can envision this, we've got two beautiful baseball diamonds there now, which are in great shape thanks to Duxbury Youth Baseball's efforts to get those into great shape. But our parking lot is a train wreck, and the pickleball folks have not high quality. That those need to be resurfaced, and the parking lot itself needs to be completely redone and lined and paved. If we were to do these projects, the dynamics change significantly. This is this chart that I showed you a few minutes ago with some pretty egregious overuse. When we turf Poppins, when we turf DCF, when we turf Brooks, when we add Chandler Woods, and we add Chandler back. We haven't come up with a more creative term for it yet, but those things that I just showed you. Look at all of the green relative to all of the red on the left. We make major strides and strides that we can live with. There are still some sites that are over 100%. While not perfect, this certainly changes the dynamic significantly. I can tell you we're very enthusiastic. We've had a great couple of weeks. We presented, and I'll comment on this more in a minute, to the school committee. Today, we met with the town administrators, and the heads of some major departments. We're getting some very good feedback so far, very enthusiastic feedback and very encouraging feedback. We believe firmly that the thing that has led to that level of success so far has been our approach to have a united effort and to be collaborative along the way. and to be clear about what we're asking of certain stakeholders. We require that all stakeholders must be aligned. We need the town to give the Duxbury Recreation Collaborative access to the Chandler Woods land behind Chandler, behind and next to. We need the town to help us with permitting and utilities. We need them to clear the path for public sponsorships and donor recognition. We need significant financial support from the community. We're going to have to raise this money privately and from corporate funding sources. This money is not going to come from the town or the general tax base. This will be a major project done on the shoulders of individual donors and corporate donors. CPC, which some of you participated in helping to pass last year, or earlier this year, I suppose, was a significant win, but we should not anticipate significant money from CPC. There are limitations, but we should expect some funding there. And lastly, we would hope that the DRC would be given the latitude when we are able to raise this money and see this type of project through to manage the field scheduling on an ongoing basis, including non-conflicting field designation for youth sports and for high school, and third-party field rentals to allow for turf replacement every 10 years. A part of this business model is to lease our beautiful space to third-party parties, and typically that's going to be some of your club teams, a lot of club teams. They're desperate for space, and this facility that we propose is close enough to the highway to be quite attractive to those folks. Where have we been and where are we now? We've done significant research and site strategy with Activitas. We've met with the CPC to explore opportunities and understand where our limitations may be there with them. We've met with the school committee and we've begun stakeholder engagement with them. They have given us a liaison to our independent nonprofit board. So we have a direct line of communication now between the school committee and our group, which is excellent. And as I said, we just met with the town officials to engage and advance critical elements of our project. Where are we going? This is a first step in engaging the general public, and you'll see more and more of this type of activity. Understanding obstacles, zoning, legal implications, there are many, as you might imagine. But if we have partnerships with the town and the schools, we're going to be able to move through those as just simple obstacles and not roadblocks. We have begun and will continue to meet now with private donors and companies who would be interested in supporting this initiative and helping to bring Duxbury forward. We will work with the town to strategize around the long-range business plan and go-forward strategy. Who owns the land? Who manages the fields? Who is responsible for upkeeping the fields? Where does the income go from town-owned entities? How does that flow? There's lots of opportunity to say, well, that's not how we do it today. And some of that may be true. But there's also lots of opportunity to say, how can we make it work in a situation that's good for the town and for the youth sports? And lastly, of course, keeping our stakeholders informed. How can you help? Clearly having a can-do attitude. There are many who will say and have said, this is a frugal town. We don't invest in things like this. And I think that's a cannot do attitude. We need a can do attitude. These things can be done. They have been done in other towns, not far from here. And we collectively need to work together to make it happen here. When we call on you, we ask that you show up, that you vote in favor of the changes that might be required, such as a bylaw change to allow for sponsorship signage at our locations. And lastly, and as importantly as anything else, raise your hand. We are each either the president or a senior leader in our youth sports organizations. We are 100% volunteer. And as this project grows, so does the need for people who are sincerely invested in it for the right reasons, recognizing that your own child may or may not benefit from some of this activity, but that it's the right thing to do for the future of our youth programs and the future of Duxbury and our community. So in conclusion, we are determined and unified in leaders as a leadership team and as parents and citizens in Duxbury. We are committed to a model that is self-funded. We are committed to moving forward based on our expectations and needs, bringing partners along for that ride. And we are seeking volunteer support and, of course, voting support when it comes time as needed at town hall meetings, for example. I'd open it up for any Q&A. I'm not seeing any questions at this point. If you would like to reach out, our contact is pretty simple, contact@duxburydrc.org. And our website, where you can find this PowerPoint right now, is duxburydrc.org. We will be using that more and more as a central communication hub. I'll actually share it with you right here. So just click here and you can see the presentation that was provided this evening. Are there any questions that I could field? I'm sorry that we don't have kind of an open mic tonight. We can only have the questions through text entry. Giorgio, as I mentioned, is with me, and I will bring him on screen here. Giorgio, maybe you can think of a couple of questions that we've typically gotten so far that might be in the minds of those watching.
Yeah, so Drew, I mean, obviously this is an ambitious plan. How do you see, or how does the DRC see the phasing of this? Will this be all done at once? Will it be done over time? Maybe provide a little more insight there.
Yeah, good question. A question we've gotten a lot. I mean, if for no other reason, even if we had all of the money and resources and permitting and everything lined up that we would need, we would still need to phase this project because we can't displace every athletic team at one time. We need to be able to move teams around. So yes, we have very much a phased approach to this. We're continuing to work with Activitas on what exactly that phased approach and the costs associated with those phases looks like. But I can say at a very high level, what we are really looking at is the first moves, the early moves. One, turfing DCF and Brooks in front of the steel building. That will provide us a lot of flexibility. It's not a great long-term solution in that the high school really has the priority on those two fields, but in the short term, it certainly alleviates some pressure and allows us to make some other moves throughout town. One of which being, and early on would need to be, Coppins Field, and at least one of the two fields proposed behind Chandler. So relocating, resizing a little bit of Coppins, turfing Coppins, relocating to the access point, and then looking at one of those two proposed external fields that are currently covered by woods in the back. And those would also be turfed. After that, we start to phase in phase two, which starts to look at Keene Street, starts to look at Train, and tackle those projects systematically.
Another question came in, Drew, and thank you for answering that one. Cost estimate.
Cost estimate, we're probably in the neighborhood of $25 to $30 million right now. Seems like a big nut, but when you break it down and you look at the breadth of the supporters that we have, and we look at how these projects break down individually between sports, we feel very confident that we're going to be able to be in a position to raise that money. But again, privately and corporately, the vast majority of it.
Drew, going back to the previous question, this aligns quite well to it. Timeline for this project.
Yeah, timeline is we're talking years, and we're probably talking 5 or 6 or 7 years. It depends on permitting timing. There's all, as we've learned, there's all of these kind of entry points for certain things. So if we want a bylaw to be changed, it enters that cycle, that annual cycle at an exact time, and then it takes 2 months and then 3 months and so forth. But we are going to be actively out looking for pledge commitments, major pledge commitments to help us get this job underway. And we would hope to be working on our first project within 2 years.
It looks like all the questions we have so far.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody joining us. Again, if you have questions, please drop some emails into this email address that you see on your screen right now. We'll push this out via email as well. I guess the last comment is we have worked really hard on our database and our contact list. It's really not a database. It's a large contact list. And so we hope that you appreciate not getting bombarded by from all of our sports. But I'd ask you to keep your eye out in those emails. And if you have a better email that you would like to use, it's more reliable for you, also send your name and that email address along to contact@duxburydrc.org so that we can field that and make the updates and keep you informed. Other than that, I think that, Giorgio, unless you have anything else, I think that concludes our presentation tonight.
Thank you, Drew. Great job today.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your interest in this project.